Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am uploading a video that has to do with Strong Mommy Chrissy. Now I haven't yet decided on a title to this video, but basically what this video does, it breaks down Strong Mommy's Chrissy as a case study, as a psychological case study, in why she is in the predicament she is in now. And I fed my AI for the podcast a dossier on Chrissy, like I've done with Liv, and they did get a couple of things wrong, and I think because there's just so many parts to this story. So before I start, I just want to clarify, it is going to say that it's going to mix up DeBum, her husband that she's legally married to, as far as we know, DeMarcus, that's his real name, but the streets call him DeBum, or as she calls him, Buddy Cuz, with her current husband, the person that she's calling her husband, the quote-unquote pediatrician. So if you could just take that into account when you listen to this, because again, I think it's because it's just it's so confusing about her husband's situation that even AI was confused about it. But it does not take away from the valid points that it doesn't take away from the valid points that are being made in this podcast. So I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of Strong Mommy Chrissy, and I'm going to go ahead and switch over and let you hear what they have to say.
You know, there is a very specific kind of anxiety you get when you fall down the rabbit hole of family vloggers. Mm-hmm. You start watching because of the aesthetic, right? The beige walls, the matching pajamas, the Strong Mommy branding, where everything looks managed.
It's all very curated.
Very curated. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, if you watch long enough, and if you really look at the background, you start to notice things. Mm-hmm. You see that the boxes in the corner never actually get unpacked.
Right.
You notice the location seems to change every year. You realize that the perfect chaos they sell isn't a brand. It's a collapse.
It is the difference between a life that is truly lived and a life that is merely performed. And today, we're wading into, I think, the ultimate example of that dissonance.
We are.
We are looking at the story of Christina, known online as Strong Mommy Chrissy.
And on paper, the stats are, well, they're just overwhelming. We're talking about a mother of 9 children.
9 children.
And these 9 children are fathered by potentially 6 or 7 different men. It's hard to even keep track. And she has built this massive YouTube platform, over 224,000 people watching her every move, where she sells herself as this successful, self-made matriarch.
Strong Mommy. But the reality underneath that brand is a woman who is, right now, currently facing eviction. Again. A woman who has faced financial ruin to the point where she allegedly couldn't pay for her own mother's basic funeral costs, and whose husband walked out on her while she was 8 months pregnant.
That is actually where I want to start. Because usually when we see this level of chaos online, the multiple fathers, the constant moving, the sudden breakups, we just label it drama.
Yeah, it's just internet fodder.
We scroll past it. But you think there is something structural happening in her psychology that explains why this keeps happening. It's a pattern, not just bad luck.
Exactly. If we just look at this as internet drama, we miss the human tragedy at the center. We need to look at this through a Jungian lens. We aren't just looking at a series of unfortunate events. We are looking at a breach in the reality principle.
A breach in the reality principle. So the goal today isn't to gossip. It's not about that. The goal is to answer the question, how does a strong mommy persona survive when the reality is a crumbling kingdom?
And more importantly, what is the cost to the 9 children living in the crossfire?
To get at that, where do we even begin? With the persona, with the chaos.
I think to understand any of it, we have to start with the archetype. When you see a woman with 9 children, your instinct is to label her a matriarch. You think of the Great Mother.
Sure, yeah, Earth Mother.
But psychologically, Chrissy is not operating as a matriarch. She is operating as a Puella Eterna.
Okay, let's unpack that term, Puella Eterna. I know Puella Eternus is the eternal boy. The Peter Pan syndrome, men who refuse to grow up. So is Chrissy just the female version of Peter Pan?
It is similar, but the manifestation is distinct. The boy usually wants to fly. He wants to escape into adventure and avoid commitment.
Right.
The Puella, the eternal girl, wants to be saved. Her defining characteristic is that she lives what Jungians call a provisional life.
Provisional, as in, this isn't my real life yet, like it's all temporary.
Precisely. The Puella believes that her real life, the one where she is rich, happy, stable, and loved, is just around the corner.
Okay.
It is waiting for the right man, the right lottery ticket, or the right viral video. Because she is always waiting for that magical future, she refuses to engage with the present. She refuses to touch the earth.
And earth in psychology represents the mundane stuff, right? The day-to-day grind, paying bills, cleaning the gutters, staying in one place.
Correct. Earth is responsibility. It's consistency. And this refusal to touch the earth explains one of the most jarring facts in this entire story. Chrissy moves her family every 12 to 18 months.
It's an unbelievable pattern. I assume that was just financial instability. You know, you get evicted, you have to move.
Yeah.
But you're saying the moving itself is psychological. It's not just a consequence, it's a need.
It is both. The financial instability is real, of course, but psychologically, staying in one place is terrifying for a Puella. Think about it. If you stay in a house for 5 years, you have to deal with the wear and tear. You have to paint the walls.
You have to deal with the boredom.
You have to deal with the boredom, and you have to deal with the reality of who you are when the initial excitement fades. If you move every year, you can live in the fantasy of the new beginning.
This time it will be different.
Exactly. This new house is where we will finally be happy. This new town is where we'll put down roots. But you can't raise 9 kids in a perpetual new beginning. Children need walls, not just physical walls, but psychological walls.
This connects to that concept in your notes, temenos. Can you explain that?
Yes. In ancient Greece, a temenos was a sacred piece of land dedicated to a god. It was literally cut off from the common land. It was a sanctuary, a protected space.
Okay.
In family psychology, the home is supposed to be the temenos. It is the container. It's the safe, predictable, sacred space where a child's soul can unfold.
A container for the child's personality.
Right.
To give it shape.
Right. Think of a child's psyche as liquid in the beginning. It is unformed. It just pours out everywhere. The home, the family structure, the routine that provides the hard edges that hold them together. It allows them to feel safe enough to take root.
So when Chrissy moves every 12 months, she is constantly shattering the temenos.
She shatters it again and again. It's like trying to grow an oak tree, but digging it up and replanting it in a new pot every spring.
The roots never get a chance to go deep.
And the result is that the tree never takes root. It eventually withers or it grows up weak and unable to withstand any storms. By constantly moving, she is running from her own shadow, the reality of being ungrounded and unparented herself.
Her own shadow.
She fears the silence that would come if she stopped moving. Because in the silence, you have to face yourself. You have to face the facts.
And looking at the facts, that reality is pretty dark. She lost custody of one of her older sons because she left the state without court approval.
A huge concrete failure.
A huge failure. She has these evictions piling up one after another. And the detail about not being able to bury her mother, just a profound statement about her financial reality.
Yeah.
That is the shadow she's running from.
And this leads to a psychological mechanism called splitting. It's a defense. The more her reality collapses, the more eviction notices she gets, the more her persona must inflate to survive.
It has to get bigger to compensate.
It's like a balloon. The more hot air you pump in, the bigger it gets, but the thinner the skin becomes. She can't just be doing okay online. She has to be well off. She has to be thriving. She has to be unbothered.
Because if she admits she's struggling, the whole house of cards falls down.
Precisely. The inflation of the ego is a direct defense mechanism against the collapse of her reality. The bigger the lie online, the more bearable the truth feels offline.
So if she refuses to provide that structure herself, that temenos, she must be looking for someone else to build it for her. Is that where the men come in?
That's exactly where they come in.
Because having children by 6 or 7 different men, that is a very specific, very loud pattern.
It is complex, but the drive behind it is, I think, quite simple. We have discussed other cases, like the Olivia case we covered a while back, where the mother wanted power. She wanted to be the virgin mother who didn't need a man.
Right. She was all about control.
Chrissy is the opposite. She is a validation seeker. She is not seeking power. She is seeking salvation.
So she isn't trying to control these men. She's trying to, what?
She is trying to be saved by them, and this reveals a profound animus wound.
Let's break that down. The animus is the male side of the female psyche in Jungian theory, right?
Yeah.
But it's more than just gender.
Yes, much more. Think of the animus as the principle of logos. It's logic, structure, order, and authority. A healthy adult has that internally. You are your own authority.
You know how to pay your bills. You know how to make a plan. You can derive your own self-worth without someone else telling you you're okay.
Exactly. You have an internal psychic structure that holds you up. Chrissy does not have that internal structure. Her animus is wounded or undeveloped.
So she projects it outward. She tries to find it in a man. She essentially tries to hire it.
Exactly. She looks at a man and doesn't see a partner to share life with. She sees a structural engineer for her collapsing building. She thinks, if I get him, he will bring the order I can't create. He will be the savior.
But she doesn't just date them. The pattern is that she gets pregnant very, very fast.
That is the binding spell. It is magical thinking at its most primal level. She operates under the misconception that a child acts as a tether. It's a form of sympathetic magic.
A binding spell. Wow.
She thinks, if I have his baby, he cannot leave. Biology will force him to stay. The child will be the glue that makes this temporary structure permanent.
But the stats of her life prove that is a lie. It is demonstrably false. It fails every single time.
Every single time. And yet she repeats it. This is Freud's repetition compulsion. It's a core concept. We are doomed to repeat what we refuse to remember and process. She is reenacting the original trauma of abandonment, hoping for a different ending.
So each new man is a chance to finally get it right.
This time the magic will work. But she isn't looking for a father for her kids, really. That's secondary. She is looking for a father god to validate her own existence. She needs a man to look at her and say, you exist. You are worthy. And the baby is meant to be the proof of that contract.
That is just, it's heartbreaking, actually. And it explains the paternity chaos. There's doubt regarding the paternity of at least one of the last three boys. And she just seems to let that ambiguity hang in the air.
It is a refusal to know. Knowing is an act of logos. It's an act of touching the earth. If she got a DNA test, if she established concrete paternity, that is a hard fact. That is reality.
And reality is the enemy.
Reality is the enemy of the provisional life. Chrissy prefers to live in a state of chaotic possibility. As long as she doesn't know for sure, she can maintain whatever fantasy she prefers at that moment.
She is allergic to concrete facts. Which brings us, I think, to the most bizarre lie in this entire saga, the pediatrician myth.
This is where the psychology gets really fascinating, because this isn't just a simple lie. This is a textbook example of psychic mimicry.
Okay, for anyone who doesn't know the deep lore here, Chrissy claimed for a long time that her husband, the one who just left her while she was pregnant, was a pediatrician.
A very specific, high-status profession.
And she said she was married to him, even though there's evidence she never divorced her previous husband.
Yeah.
But recently, she admitted the pediatrician thing was a lie. Just casually admitted it.
Correct. But look at the specific lie she chose. She didn't say he was a lawyer. She didn't say he was an architect or a pilot. She chose a healer of children.
Oh, wow. Okay, I see where you're going.
It is entirely compensatory. Deep down, somewhere in her shadow, she knows she is failing to stabilize her children's lives. She knows the moving, the men, the chaos. It is hurting them.
So, to counteract that feeling.
As a form of psychic compensation, she hallucinates a partner who is the ultimate good father, a man whose entire professional identity is fixing and healing children. It's a perfect psychic bandage.
So by standing next to him, even a fictional version of him, she feels like she's fixed, like she's a good mother by association.
It is a costume. Look, I'm a doctor's wife. How can I be a bad mother? My husband heals children, so therefore I must be a good mother. It is what we call an imposter animus. She lacks internal authority, so she mimics it by attaching herself to a prestigious title. She borrows his status because she has none of her own.
And when she finally admitted it was a lie, do you remember her excuse? It was incredible. She said she lied to throw off the haters.
Which is logically absurd. It makes no sense.
Right. It's like, I'll make my husband a doctor so the trolls on the internet won't find me. How does one even connect to the other?
Logically, it's nonsense, but psychologically, it is brilliant. The haters aren't real people to her. The haters are the externalized voice of her own shame. They are her conscience made manifest.
Wait, so when she's fighting the internet, she's actually fighting herself.
Exactly. Deep down, a voice in her head is screaming, "You are failing these kids. You are broke. You are lying." That is too painful to hear. It would shatter the persona.
So she projects it.
She projects that voice onto the internet comments section. If she says, "The haters are attacking me," then she becomes the victim. She becomes the heroine of the story again, bravely fighting off the darkness. The lie about the doctor wasn't a tactic to fool us. It was a load-bearing wall for her own self-esteem.
That's heavy. And speaking of the husband, we have to talk about the ghost in the house. Because this man, she refuses to show him on camera. Ever.
Which is, of course, very convenient for a fantasy. A fantasy figure can't withstand the scrutiny of reality.
Right. And there are allegations, pretty strong ones, based on social media evidence, that this husband is actually a transgender male. Chrissy has never confirmed this. She just maintains the ambiguity. But if it's true, how does that fit the Jungian puzzle?
Well, first and foremost, if we look at this through the lens of the unconscious, the fact that she keeps him hidden is the key. He is a placeholder.
A placeholder for what?
For her projections. Because he is not shown, because he is a mystery, he acts as a screen. He can be whatever she needs him to be in the moment. A blank canvas.
If you show his face, he becomes a real person with flaws, with a personality, with needs of his own. If he's hidden, he can be the pediatrician, the savior, the everything.
Exactly. He is a function, not a person. And the transgender element, if true, adds another fascinating layer. It might represent what you could call a blurred masculine.
A blurred masculine.
Chrissy has a history of failed relationships with cisgender men who leave or disappoint her. She may unconsciously be seeking a masculine form that she perceives as safer, or perhaps more empathetic to her matriarchal world. Someone less likely to challenge her queendom.
Yet she still felt the need to dress this person in the doctor title for the public.
Because she still craves the status of the traditional patriarch. She wants the aesthetic of the traditional family, husband, doctor, provider, even if the reality behind the curtain is much more fluid and complex. She wants the container, even if it's empty.
But think about the kids in that house. They are living in what the research calls a schizoid atmosphere. It's a chilling phrase.
It's the most damaging part of this whole situation. The children see a person in the kitchen, they interact with this person, they see the reality of who this person is every day, they hear the arguments, they see the dynamic.
Their eyes are telling them one thing.
But the public narrative, the story mommy tells the camera, denies that reality or alters it completely.
So they're being taught that their own senses are lying to them.
They are learning that truth is fluid. That truth is whatever mommy says it is today. This is your father. He is a pediatrician. No, actually, he isn't. He is this. No, he is that. It is a fundamental gaslighting of the soul. It teaches them that reality is not a reliable source of information.
It's terrifying. And it brings us to the question I think everyone asks when they see channels like this. Why keep having children? 9 kids. I mean, I love kids, but 9 is a lot, especially when you are being evicted.
Yeah.
The sources talk about narcissistic refueling.
This is a crucial concept to understand Chrissy and many people in her position. Why 9? Why the constant pregnancy? It is because she is addicted to the magic of the newborn.
The newborn phase. That feeling.
Think about what a newborn offers.
Yeah.
It's not just love. It's unconditional adoration, total dependency. When you hold a newborn, you are their entire world. For a few months, you are God to them.
You can do no wrong.
You can do no wrong. For a woman with a fragile ego like Chrissy, someone who feels like a Puella, a girl who needs saving, that feeling is intoxicating. It makes her feel whole. It makes her feel powerful and necessary.
It fills the void.
It fills the void perfectly. But then the tragedy happens. The child grows up. They start to walk. They start to talk. And eventually they say the most devastating word in the narcissistic parent's vocabulary. No.
They become a person.
They become a separate other. They have an ego. They have needs. They have opinions. They are no longer just a mirror reflecting her godhood. They are reflecting her mess. They are crying. They are dirty. They need things she can't provide. The magic fades. The narcissistic supply is cut off.
So she has to get a refill. She needs a new source.
She conceives again. She is addicted to the archetypal beginning. She loves the pregnancy, the baby shower, the newborn photos. That is when the success fantasy is untarnished. Reality hasn't ruined it yet.
And she has another source of refueling, too, a constant one. The internet.
Oh, yes. The digital audience. Her 224,000 subscribers. They act as a collective good mother for her.
That is a very weird way to think about YouTube subscribers.
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
But it fits perfectly. When she posts a video, what does she get? She gets likes. She gets comments saying, "You're doing great, mama. You're so strong." That is micro-validation.
And it comes in 247.
Constantly. Every like is a psychic counterweight to an eviction notice. The eviction notice on the door says, "You are failing." The YouTube comment says, "You are a queen." Which one is she going to listen to?
She listens to the one that makes her feel good. The one that supports the persona.
Which has led her to create a digital tulpa.
You mentioned that in the notes of Tulpa. What is that?
It's a concept from Tibetan mysticism, a being or object created through sheer mental focus and belief. It's a thought form that becomes so dense with psychic energy it feels real. Chrissy has poured so much energy into her online persona, the strong mommy avatar, that it has become more real to her than her physical life.
So the woman on the screen is the real Chrissy, and the woman being evicted in the dark is... what? A glitch in the Matrix?
A nuisance, an inconvenience. She dissociates from the woman in the empty townhouse so she can fully inhabit the woman in the YouTube thumbnail. The digital self is the preferred self.
That is why she can't stop. That's why she has to keep filming, even as things are falling apart.
It would be psychic suicide to stop. If she admits the truth, that she is broke, that she lied, that the house is empty, the persona dies. And she has identified so fully with the persona that she feels she would die too. She is trapped by her own transparency. She has broadcasted herself into a corner she can't escape.
And while she is in that corner, the children are the ones paying the price.
Yeah.
Let's move to the final section, the impact on the children, because this is the part that really keeps me up at night. The sources talk about the corruption of the logos.
It sounds abstract, but it is devastatingly practical. Logos is the word, the truth, the ability to accurately describe reality. In a healthy family, the parent mirrors reality for the child. If it is raining, the parent says, "It is raining." If we are broke, the parent says, "We need to be careful with money this month."
They connect language to reality.
Yes. But Chrissy denies reality. She tells the kids and the world, we are well off, while she is packing them up in the middle of the night to escape an eviction.
That creates an unbearable cognitive dissonance for a child.
It's unbearable. The children learn that words are not tools for truth. They learn that words are tools for manipulation. They learn that language is a weapon you use to create a preferred narrative, not a way to describe the world. They lose the ability to trust their own senses.
If mom says the sky is green, but my eyes see blue, who do I believe?
For a young child, you have to believe mom. So you learn to distrust your own eyes. It's a fundamental psychic injury.
And because she is this Puella, this eternal girl, the kids have to step up and be the adults.
Parentification. Specifically, in a dynamic like this, the eldest daughters become shadow mothers.
They have to be the moms, because the real mom is busy being a girl.
Chrissy is busy chasing the fantasy, chasing the next man, curating the next video. So the daughters sacrifice their childhoods to hold the crumbling kingdom together.
You can see it in the video sometimes.
You can. They are the ones likely packing the boxes. They are the ones changing the diapers of the new babies. They're carrying the emotional and physical weight of the family.
They aren't just doing chores. They're carrying the emotional weight. They're managing the anxiety that their mother refuses to feel.
They are living her unfaced shadow. Every eviction notice Chrissy ignores. The eldest daughter worries about it. Every bill unpaid. The daughter feels the stress in her body. They are paying the psychic debt their mother is racking up.
And the sons, what does this do to them?
The sons are in a very difficult position. They see a revolving door of men. Men who are brought in as saviors, but who turn out to be inadequate or who flee when reality gets too hard.
So they learn that men leave.
They learn that manhood is unstable. It is something that leaves. It is something that fails. It is not a source of stability, but a source of chaos and disappointment. There is no model for healthy, grounded masculinity.
And if the father, the capital F father, the pediatrician, was a complete fiction, then their own identity feels like a fiction.
It is a gaslighting of the soul. If my father is a lie, then who am I? What is my origin story? It creates a profound and terrifying identity crisis.
The sources list the long-term debt these kids are accruing. It's a long list. Hypervigilance is one.
Absolutely. They are likely developing anxious attachments. They are always scanning the horizon for the next disaster, always waiting for the floor to drop out.
Because in their life, the floor does drop out every 12 to 18 months.
Exactly. They don't learn how to build a life. They only learn how to pack one up. They become experts in survival, not in thriving.
And a scarcity complex.
A deep, abiding fear of instability. A fear that resources will vanish at any moment. This often leads to things like hoarding or financial chaos in adulthood because they never internalized what stability feels like. It's an alien concept.
And the last one on the list is maybe the most modern and the saddest, the feeling of being a prop.
That is the tragedy of the vlogging era, feeling like you are just a prop in your mother's performance. You aren't a human being with rights and a private life. You are content. You are a thumbnail. Your job is to perform for the camera, to keep the likes coming in, to keep the fantasy alive.
It is so heavy to think about those 9 kids.
It is the tragedy of the unlived life. The great Jungian scholar Marie-Louise von Franz said something to the effect of, a child's greatest tragedy is the unlived life of the parents. But in Chrissy's case, the children are not just living her unlived life, they are living her unfaced shadow.
They're carrying the bags she refuses to pick up.
Literally and metaphorically, they bear the physical weight of the evictions that her ego refuses to acknowledge.
So, to wrap this all up, is there a way out? Can this be fixed? For her, for the children?
It is a very, very difficult path. For the children, the path forward involves a painful process called de-identification.
What does that look like in practice?
Eventually, as they get older, they will have to consciously realize that StrongMommy was a mask. It was a character. They will have to mourn the mother they wanted and needed in order to survive and accept the mother they had.
They have to separate their own reality from her performance.
They have to find their own reality, distinct from the digital fantasies she created for them and for the world. They have to decide to touch the earth for themselves.
That sounds like years of therapy. Decades, maybe?
It is the work of a lifetime. But it is necessary if they want to break the cycle. Otherwise, they risk repeating it, seeking saviors, running from reality, performing a life instead of living one.
It brings us back to that quote from the sources. I think it was from Jung himself. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely.
And Chrissy is running from that acceptance at the speed of 100,000 subscribers and 9 children. She is terrified of the woman in the empty house.
It really makes you think about the digital age we are living in. You know, we all curate our lives a little bit, right? We post the good photos, the vacation pics. But this is a profound warning.
It is a warning about the danger of the digital persona. If we use the audience to hide from our pain, if we build a mask to hide our own shadow, at what point does the mask take over? At what point does the digital ghost eat the real person alive?
In Chrissy's case, it seems like the mask is the only thing left standing in that empty townhouse. The husband is gone, the money is gone, the stability is gone, but the YouTube channel is still there. The performance continues.
And that is the terrifying part. The tulpa survived, but the family is shattered. The performance outlived the reality.
That is a lot to process. But it's an important story to understand, not just for the online drama, but for what it tells us about the human mind and the incredible, devastating cost of living a lie.
Absolutely. It reminds us that reality, no matter how harsh it might be, is always safer than a fantasy. Because you can build on reality. You can't build anything on a fantasy. It's a foundation of sand.
Well said. Thank you for walking us through that. It was intense, but necessary.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, thanks for sticking with us through this deep dive. We will catch you on the next one.
Stay grounded.
Okay, so there you have it. That was a deep dive into Chrissy's situation. And like I said, there were some hiccups along the way. So for everyone who is so worried about AI kind of taking over, there are some limitations. There are some limitations to understanding, but technology is advancing at a rapid rate and those things will get worked out in the wash. But I hope you understood the basics of what the podcast was conveying about Chrissy. Like I said, there were some hiccups. It couldn't distinguish between the bum and the pediatrician at one point. But I think the points that were made in regards to Chrissy's situation with having all of these kids and moving and creating this fantasy were spot on. Tell me what you think in the comments. And until I upload the next time, have a great day. Bye now. Oh, and don't forget, if you like this content, let's not forget, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. It'll be much appreciated. Again, as I always say, the more people that subscribe, the more people that like the videos, it lets me know that I'm doing something right. All right, with that, I will end the video now. Bye.